Hey y'all, this is Allison from the Allison Knows channel and Allison Knows podcast. What are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about a lot of things today. And got my doggies with me, got them hanging around with me. And they kind of keep me calm. They really are from the angel realm. They'll definitely keep me calm. Um, it's Sunday, April 20th. It's Hitler's birthday, which some people are recognizing and celebrating. Um, it's also a day that I want you all to really truly pay attention to. I'm going to make a sincere effort to get this out today. There are going to probably be a number of bits and pieces with it because there is going to be multiple topics that I am going to be focused on and talking about. Let's talk about the 1% that is mismatched in legacy media and traditional media. I am a part of what I feel is independent media. I utilize a number of tools for my information, some which include but are not limited to readers, psychic intuitives, clairvoyance, clairaudience, instinct. I will tell you this right now. I am not going to say it's for entertainment purposes only. It's not for entertainment purposes only. And we're not entertaining different methods of thinking. This is for your information only. And what is distressing is the pressure, the power, the strength, the manipulation, the management, the micromanaging that can happen from platforms like YouTube, from Google, simply because they're focused on their bottom line. Your bottom line will be non existent if the people did not participate in your particular product. So stop putting your thumb on the scale. I am at less than 600 subscribers. Why? Because the information that I'm providing, they have gone ahead and they've removed it from accessibility. Oh wow, the woodpecker has arrived. That's cool. Um, what is distressing and what is it's not upsetting. It makes me angry. It makes me angry because of the unfairness of it. Everything was fine and dandy when YouTube, Google, Meta, Twitter, Threads, Snapchat, and everyone else in between wanted to utilize us as their method, means, and manner for filling their bottom line. That was good for them. That was okay for them. But that's not good and okay for those of us that are starting small, that are trying to get a community together, that are trying to be available for people who are desperately, desperately needing it. You need to know the information that is true. You need to also know how to prepare yourself in dealing with what that information means. What does it mean to you when you come across the facts that we have an illegitimate president? This man stole the election in order to elevate himself into a position of power, and he had facilitators that assisted in that process. A lot more of us voted for Kamala Harris than a lot voted for him. I instinctively have always said, felt, and believed that 101 million votes went to Kamala Harris. She is, in my instinct, in my feeling, to believe her to be our 47th president. Donald John Trump is not the president. He is illegitimate. He is a Russian asset known as Krasnov. He has also been doing the work of Russia eagerly because why? Money is involved. What is fascinating is, has someone told him yet that when he dies, the money does not go with him? It doesn't even go to his children. I promise you, what's going to happen is funds are going to be frozen, assets are going to be taken, and assets are going to be dispersed to the American people. And it's not going to be dispersed to American people in a manner of those of you who have paid taxes will receive this return or the stimulus. No, that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is he is going to truly fuck up. He is. And it's going to get to a point where the United States military, of which I am a veteran and I served, I will tell you, we will finally be the obstruction that hits the rock, and we will shatter this rock because Donald Trump is only one man and he has fulfilled what his sole contract is. He is supposed to be disruptive, he is supposed to be destructive, and he is supposed to be deceptive. He has fulfilled everything that he's supposed to fulfill, and the last thing that needs to happen will. Why? Because that is how God's world works. That is how the balance of the universe works. That is what you need to understand. That is why I said to you, this is not for entertainment purposes only. This is for information. Now, talking about the 1% that everyone, and I mean everyone, is focused on, trans people. They're less than 1% of our world population. And why does it interest us so much about trans people? It's buried in otherisms, it's buried in easy access, it's buried in hate. There are people that I know and care for that are transgendered human beings. And what is hurtful and what is painful is the ease in which people can discriminate, the ease in how, as long as it's happening to someone else, it is of no concern to me, how that can apply as an easy label. What is painful to me is they are not harming anyone, they are not attacking anyone. But you look at the other spectrum of the other 1%, the billionaires, multimillionaires, and millionaires. They are so thin-skinned, they are so insecure that it's easy for them to point at and otherize transgendered people and to use the might of their money to do so, forgetting how they've gotten that in the first place. Let's talk about, for example, J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling was on public assistance before she conjured and came up with Harry Potter kingdom, if you will. And what is distressing about this, first for me, is she's a woman and she's a parent. That is the first thing that's distressing to me. The second thing that's distressing to me is you look around the world and you see the significance of what her book has done. It has helped children speak. It has helped children learn. It has fueled children's imaginations. And for her to be the hateful, singular individual that she is right now is incredibly distressing. And it is easy to, excuse me, it's easy to say, oh, let's just boycott her products and her. Yeah, that is the broad stroke result that we can we can go about as it relates to her. But if you simply go online and you insert her name, and right beside her name, insert her comments as it relates to transgender people, human beings, it's it's a shame that you expect more from someone else who expects less from themselves simply because they are multi-billionaires. That's distressing to me. Um, okay, let's talk about the search results that mention Joyce Carol Oates. She is there are two different kinds of people out there. Um, Trans people are, based on my experience, some of the most kind-hearted individuals. And it is really, really upsetting to me that this is what J.K. Rowling has sum total. This is the thing that unfortunately I believe is going to be the thing that fights against the legacy that she had before. Now, the story that we're talking about specifically right here is the power of the 1% to shape narratives, to rewrite reality, to wage wars on more, on so many marginalized communities. But this isn't about tax breaks or offshore accounts. This is about two billionaires leveraging their platforms to attack one of the most vulnerable groups in society, transgender people. And at the center of the storm is, as I said, a name you all know, J.K. Rowling. Let me set the stage. In 2025, the global backlash against transgender rights became a political weapon. And it's a cultural flashpoint, and for some, it's a lucrative method of grifting. Grifting is the word used to describe modern day stealing, which is kind of interesting because it's a historical word that explains pirating, stealing from others. So, hopefully, we're discussing today how two ultra wealthy figures, J.K. Rowling and her ideological allies, have tuned their personal biases into a crusade to weaponize pseudoscience and cherry pick anecdotes while they have a staggering disregard for human dignity. J.K. Rowling's playbook is the turf wars to global influence. So here are the key points to that. The origins of her crusade. She wrote a 2020 essay where she framed her anti-trans activism as a defense of biological truth, laid the groundwork of her ongoing campaign. She cites concerns about women's spaces, transitioning youths, and erasing sex arguments repeatedly debunked by by medical organizations and human rights organizations. Her talking points, her rhetoric, has escalated, excuse me, into mocking terms like people who menstruate, quote unquote, supporting anti-trans figures like Maya Forstater, promoting the debunked rapid onset of gender dysphoria, which is a theory, which is not founded in fact. She has used her billionaire megaphone, her platform, to amplify her reach. Her book, Troubled Blood, features a cis male serial killer in women's clothing, reviving harmotropes linking trans women to predation. By 2025, she has doubled down, classing with Stephen King and John Oliver, who she accuses of enabling female suffering for defending trans athletes. You know, one of my phrases that I refer to often is God has a sense of humor, because he says we are all created in his image, and then he gives us the power of choice. And then he tells us, put no other God before me. And then he says, lay your concerns, your worry, your fears, your anxiety at my feet and walk with me and believe in me. And I abbreviated all of that for ease of explanation and understanding, because the way I've seen how God teaches others lessons is they do it this way. The thing that an individual rages against Usually it stems from some sort of deep-seated hate and shame. And it's my experience that hate and shame have been triggered by and is usually fueled by envy, jealousy, and insecurity. Now, I would not be surprised if there's someone in her family that is transgender that will ultimately come out against her. Here's an example to follow with and by. Elon Musk has shared his seed with a lot of women across this globe. And he has painted himself as a billionaire with access and intent. But he's insecure, he is thin-skinned, and he is a wussy boy. And I use the phrase wussy boy because to me, that translates into an individual that's incapable of standing on his or her own 2 feet, squaring their shoulders, and taking responsibilities for the good and bad and indifferent of what they are responsible for causing, starting, originating, and fueling. There's a lot of what ifs that can go around, but let's use the what is right now. He has, to date, if numbers are correct, 14 children that have been a product of his spermicide. And from that sperm, he has on the record a trans child himself. And his narcissism needs to be fed because people are burning his swastikars and swasta trucks. People are disregarding his products because there are other ways, means, and methods to function around them, despite them. And that's what people are taking action in doing, and you must continue that. I want to grow my reach through this platform. I want to grow my communities through my Massfluence platform. I want to empower more people to be less like a narcissist and more like God's image. Kindness, love, and humanity comes from empathy. And that, believe it or not, is the weapon that's going to beat this entire hateful process that comes from a number of different points of origin. And with Elon Musk's hate for people, which ironically is based on his run and his race from South Africa because he didn't want to be in the military, which is very interesting to me because he's dressed in a representative look of Hitler's military. So the wussy boy, the titty baby, as my ladies on iHit News are fond of saying, he is a whiny puss, and he is a welfare child of taking money from the U.S. government in order to build himself up. Well, if it's our money that it takes to build you up, it's our money that we will take back to tear you down. And we will tear you down. And what you must be aware of and what you should know is these people are just individuals that have been given a gift based on God's blessings from God's people themselves. And those people protested yesterday, continue to protest today, and will continue to protest tomorrow until the change they envision, they want, occurs. And what does that change look like? The illegitimate president that Elon Musk has paid almost $500 million for will crumble, and it will dissolve, and it will be a footnote in world history, and it will be the pivotal point in American history, because the tools that make us stronger, now you have galvanized and you have caused us to organize. And because of that, we are like a bulldozer going to remove all and everything that ties into it. We will not necessarily change the hateful minds that are there. We will have a percent of our society that does reflect that, but it will not be the prominent speaking point of our society. It will not be the point that gets the loudest blowhard out there speaking, because in essence, what America is trying to convince itself right now is that the lowest of our society, the most uneducated, underinformed, ignorant aspect of our society, has elected this individual as president. No, that's not true. What has happened is the steel has been more effective this time than it was in 2016, than it attempted in 2020. And the only reason that it is effective is because you need to check about individuals like Michael Conley, who has since left this earth. He died because he was killed before anyone could speak with him and get his actual thoughts, points, and truth recorded. Michael Conley was a part of the group that was responsible for creating a methodology that afforded the GOP, the Republican Party, allowed for them to have a method and a means of cheating. And I'll say it again, this is for your information. It's not for your entertainment. And getting back to J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk, there is something called a dark money network. And the dark money network is a part of what has allowed Rowling to be able to have a face to what she's saying, because she's not alone. You have billionaire donors like Paul Singer, not explicitly mentioned in sources online right now, but inferred as part of the 1%, who funds think tanks producing research, and those are in quotations, to justify bans on transgender and trans healthcare and transport participation. The Heritage Foundation's 224 report citing Rowling's claims about 900 medals lost to trans athletes was statistically debunked. You need to check anti-trans sites like She Won, which fabricated that information. And, Roy Cohn said it. If you say a lie loud enough and big enough, often enough, it will be believed. So allow me to say the truth loud enough, big enough, and often enough so that it will be seen as the truth. That is a lie. What the Heritage Foundation has contracted, and completed and shared with the masses, which is Project 2025, that is 100% a lie. It is. It is designed to create our own version of Adolf Hitler's list and Hitler's mythology. And we are not going to deal with that. So the grift of fear sells. In 2024, Republicans spent $116 million in trans and anti-trans ads, framing trans rights as an existential threat. Now, an existential threat is the eradication of humanity, and that is an ongoing threat from climate change. And if we ignore that, along with what causes it, which is the feeding of ignorance, then that's our existential threat. However, when you try to paint information as a threat on God's people, then, well, things will begin to change. And I will tell you this, that if you are not paying attention, and what do I mean by that? If you're in your Fox network bubble, you are about to have a severe, shocking surprise. Because Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox News, will die, and his network will dissolve, and his network will be no relevance anymore to anyone again. Yes, that is my intuition. And come back and comment and tell me if I was right or wrong. But it is going to happen. Another thing that you need to be aware of is that his children are not going to try and save it. Because why? There are people in their lives that are being hurt and harmed by the things that are being broadcasted on Fox News. And because of that, they have done the minimal, but they've done something to distance themselves. And if you know anything about human behavior, you'll see and notice the same things in Krasnov's family. They are no longer around him. They have removed themselves from where they consider themselves to be, and they are focusing themselves onto other things. An example of that is this. His grandchildren are Jewish. His favorite child has moved away from him. She's not even very much in the public. Yeah, she was there when he was inaugurated because appearances matter, optics matter. But for the most part, for the relevant part, she has not. And the trickle-down economics that originated from Ronald Reagan. Incidentally, as a footnote and a side note, I have written a book. It's called The Evolution of a Lie. It is about to be published in just ebook form, and you can sign up in the comments to receive a notification when it's publicly available, and you can purchase it. It is available for your consumption. Why? Because if you truly want to learn and know what the facts and the truth is, buy my book and read it. I am in the midst of finishing 3 others, which I will make available as soon as they're ready. So stick with this channel. Leave your comments, please, so that I can answer questions if you have any. And if you also have things that you want me to check on, please do that as well. On to the rest of our show. His children do not necessarily support him. What they do, in fact, is they want to make sure that they are supported. So they keep him as close as they can stand in order to get the results they want. Human behavior is fascinating. So, as I was saying, fear does sell. The grift of fear does sell. So, that $116 million that the Republican Party used to do anti-trans ads, which they were trying to convince enough people so that they would vote against Kamala Harris. Remember the number I gave you, 101 million. That is what I see as being the number of people that voted for her. I only saw 37 million people that voted for him. And the interesting thing about it is, if you truly want to know if what I'm saying is true, gregpalast.com has a movie that you can watch. It is free. It explains a lot of the things statistically and data driven. That will explain most of that. The other part is paying attention on what trickle information that legacy media has provided. I provide a lot of information on my channel on YouTube, Allison Knows, and it is purposely called Allison Knows because I do know. And what you need to realize is this is not something that has happened overnight. This is in and cemented in the embodiment of our particular government. It is put in place to specifically drive and keep a certain belief in function. This country is 248 years old, and everything planetary wise, astrological wise, emotional wise is repeating itself right now. In 1776, we had a mad king, which is where we left the United Kingdom or Great Britain to come to America and stake it as our own and create our own government. In 2025, we have a madman playing a mad king also, and he will be removed as well. And the methods in that are happening from four corners. They're happening financially, they're happening physically, they're happening politically, and they're happening emotionally. He is slowly, well, no, that's not true. He's not slowly deteriorating before our very eyes. He's already deteriorated before our eyes. Donald Trump has dementia. Donald Trump has, for lack of a better word, a spiritual parasite eating at him. He is no longer able to keep his house of cards up and mobilized and running the way that they should be, because you know what? He was never really that skilled in fact, to do so. And when you have someone that pays others to take tests for him, someone that has to cheat in order to win, someone that has to lie, brag, and deceit in order to be looked upon as more than that they are, someone that has conned themselves into the Oval Office, then I tell you what, since you conned yourself into the Oval Office, we will con you right on out. What you will see is you will see him in shirt sleeves being led from the Oval Office with handcuffs on his wrists. He will be shackled and he will be walked past the lights and the cameras of legacy media, which will finally have caught up to those of us here in independent media. And again, it's not for entertainment purposes. It is for your information. And it is now time for you to realize that not only did God give you 2 feet upon which to stand, He gave you a spinal column, which means it runs the full length of your body from the top of your head all the way down to your tailbone. You need to stand up straight, and you need to realize that if you do nothing, you will be nothing. That's it in a nutshell. So moving back to our monies, the GOP, the good old party, have always cheated in order to win. So in addition to that cheating funnel, and in addition to that cheating methodology, comes along the way and means by utilizing this 2024 campaign, $116 million. Now, what's sad about all of that is money could have been used for something more beneficial for the masses, but instead they went ahead and they did all these. It says, things like girls and women are being harmed. That was a tweet that Rowland put out, and it became a soundbite for the campaign. Contrast this with the actual harm. The actual harm is this: 78% of the less than 1% trans youth face discrimination. And they face discrimination and bans on gender affirming care correlated, which causes, guess what? A soaring of suicide rates. Now, as a United States Army veteran, we are always in conflict with ourselves. We're always in conflict with ourselves, always back and forth about things. We need to know if we can be of service, and then we want to be of service, want to make sure that it's something that's ethical. And when it is something ethical, we want to make sure that we're making a difference. We're always in serious back and forths with ourself, and we're always in our head. But what is interesting, and that what I can tell you right this minute, and what I will say right this minute, is whether or not you are a MAGA supporter or you are a true American patriot, what I can say is this: any of my service members, my veterans, my active duty, my retirees that are watching this, I want you to help me grow. Like I said earlier, I am under 1,000 subscribers. I want to have more subscribers. I want you to have a significant field and method through what I'm doing. Why? Because we need to hear this. We need to realize that the mobilization is happening, and there are some of us that are mobilized, that are galvanized, that are actually activating and doing what we need to do. The entire reason that we are seeing what's going on in our capital from this man is because he wants to implement everything before his 100 days are up. Because when the 100 days are up, we are going to truly see how much destruction he has caused. And what's interesting is, just like how a lot of us were afraid of and upset and scared of the pandemic, would you believe that the pandemic happened so that we were able to deal with this when this happened? Would you believe that there are two sides to the pandemic? It both helped and hindered a number of us. Would you believe that the pandemic was our test run done by God Almighty Himself? And would you believe that 1 million people in the United States did not have to die, and that 1 million people died because of His carelessness? And He was 4 years younger then, or 8 years younger then. 4 years younger, yeah, 2020, 4 years younger. And he wasn't as bad as he is now. And I don't mean by actions, I mean by what's going on in his head. Because his head and his heart are not connected. And what I mean by that is, he has convinced himself, for as long as he's been alive, for more than 50 years, that if he thinks it hard enough, it will materialize for him. He has a reversed understanding of what manifestation is, but that's a whole different conversation. And what needs to be said here at this point, at this juncture, is he is more now in his head than he's ever been. And there are people around him that are just about ready to panic. A lot of the things that are being implemented, especially those executive orders, are at the origination point of Stephen Miller, a Jew, which is interesting to me. Because again, remember earlier I said God has a sense of humor? Think about this: a Jew advocating for the eradication of marginalized people, responsible for the deportation of American citizens, of American residential aliens, of American people, a Jew. And he is, interestingly enough, if you look at him and you look at his face, he is the embodiment of toxicity. He is legitimately an evil human being. But here's the fun part: his demise will be publicized. And it's going to be before the end of this year. And actually, it's going to be before the beginning of summer. So, when we all started off with the phraseology, get your popcorn, sit back and watch it happen, that was predominantly directed to our ethnic mixed Americans, myself included. However, we are now at a juncture where our mobilization is required. Why? Because white America that is advocating for a better America in the form of no Krasnov and no Stephen Miller is at a point where they're recognizing that the harm is not isolated. The harm is intentional. Because why? The pain is the point and the money is the reward. And you may sit and ask yourself questions all over the place all the time, too much to even answer them here. But questions like, why did they go to the Fort Knox housing of America's gold? Why? What was the point? Why is Elon Musk no longer being seen right now? Why is the only people that you're seeing is Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and his frumpy old lady? I always forget her name. But the interesting thing to me is that if you look at his chief of staff, you will see that she literally has a similarity to the good witch slash bad witch representation of the Wizard of Oz. She legitimately is, quote, the mature adult in the room. So, what I think is interesting is Wicked came out just before this election was decided. Remember I told you about God and his sense of humor? There are things that are all over the place that are showing us what is, what could be, what is possible, what may happen, but we need to pay attention. Now, where's our power? Our power is in the grassroots. Why? Because I'll give you a quick little analogy. When you look at a tree, where do you see the strength? Do you see it above the ground or below the ground? A tree's strength is below the ground. Why? As far and wide as its roots go is as far and wide as the tree grows. And when the tree grows as far and wide above ground, most times its roots are at least twice the amount of what you're seeing above ground. What is my point? My point is there are more of us than there are of them. That's it. You stick with me, you'll see how blunt I am. My mom accused me of having no tact, and I don't, because life is short. Shorter still when you're distracted from having joy living it. So, organizations like GLAAD and the Trevor Project have cataloged J.K. Rowling's harmful rhetoric. And while trans-led groups like Mermaids Fight for Young Rights, the ACLU has a lawsuit against DODEA schools and their book bans, spurred by Trumpism and the Trump era policies. J.K. Rowling tactically endorses. It shows the legal blowback against censorship. It does. Her focus is on biological women and ignores that trans men and non-binary people also face violence. Her stance against the TERF groups that exclude trans men from feminism is a hypocrisy that is noted in her very own essay. So, in closing, here's the truth. When billionaires like J.K. Rowling weaponize their platforms against trans people, they're not defending women. They're defending hierarchy and a world where power consolidates at the hands of the few. And the marginalized pay the price every damn time. Yeah, that stops now, yeah. That stops now. But as we've seen, their influence is not absolute. And for every J.K. Rowling, there is a Radcliffe. For every shewon.org lie, there is a John Oliver fact check. I like John Oliver. And for every anti-trans law, there's a lawsuit like the ACLU's that is fighting to let kids read books that reflect their truth. And what is the lesson? The lesson is the 1% might have the money, but the rest of us have the numbers. And in the end, numbers always win. So, in summary, what can you do? Well, put your money where your mouth is. No more Harry Potter visits, no more Harry Potter books. Go online, support sites like mine, support channels like mine. Go online, join all of us. Join me, join the ACLU, join Legal Aid, join GLAD, join the Human Rights, join Black Lives Matter. Join. Build your communities. If you don't know how, ask. If you don't know where to ask, research. We need to do something as simple as this. Make sure that wherever we live, if it is in a sprawling house or if it is in a one-bedroom apartment, that you are growing something. You are growing something as simple as a simple hydroponic, maybe even your own onions. You're growing your own garlic. You're growing something. Because I tell you this, it's kind of interesting, but when you have, excuse me, a handle on your food, it is going to help you have a handle on your economics, on your money, which will give you security and protection. And one of the things that I have found lackluster in some places is to understand what you can do as one human being. Find your tribe. And please start with me here. Join me here. Find your tribe. And when you do that, you will surround yourself with like-minded people that are not only here to protect themselves, but they're here to protect others as well and to support others as well. And I want to say, not even necessarily a shout out, but I want to acknowledge my fellow YouTube channel operators, people like I Hit News. They have over a half a million subscribers, which is awesome. I don't envy people, but I kind of envy those numbers. Also, Don Lemon, Joy Reid, Lawrence McDonald, my girl Rachel Maddow. I love Rachel Maddow, and I hope that I can eventually get her on to my show for an hour or so that we can legitimately just chat. People like Whoopi Goldberg, people, believe it or not, like Alyssa Farah. Alyssa is smart and Alyssa is caring, and they're all on the show where they support each other as strong women. Anna Navarro, love her. She doesn't suffer she doesn't suffer fools really well, and I like that. That's her Latin background. I'm Jamaican, and I'm Jamaican American. And the things that I will say about this is your courage cannot just come to the surface when you get attacked. There's another one of my phrases that I'm going to put on a t-shirt soon, which is called, when it becomes personal is when it becomes relevant. And if that's the way that things are for you, okay, that's the way they are for you. But however, we shouldn't hopefully rely on that, because if others are being hurt, harmed, or hindered, it is in our best interest, because we are going to be feeding empathy across this world. And it really needs to start within us. So we need to be able to empathize about how others are trying to treat the 1% that is the transgender people. As I said before, I have people that are transgendered, and they are friends and their extended family, and they are professionals that you work with every time. They are people that you'll meet on the street that are very kind, very generous, and very caring. And I have known a lot of them for a lot of years. And what disturbs and bothers and angers me is, excuse me, in order to prove your self-worth, you have to attack someone else. Nope. I'm here to tell you, we're not going to be doing none of that nonsense. No, we're not. We're going to turn around and we're going to fight back. Because I love my life. I love the people that I've allowed to be in my life. And I've loved even those people that are against me. I do. I have family that is in the red states of this country that don't even realize by voting for this illegitimate president, they have threatened my life and my wife. They have threatened my family. And they've just threatened. And because of that, but despite that, I know how to fight. I know how to do it very well. I absolutely do. And I know the best way that I should do that. And the best way for me to do that is through my voice, and it is through my platforms. So I am going to put this video together along with some information that's pertinent. And as I get ready to sign off from this recording, I will ask you this question. Will you subscribe to me, please, through YouTube? And will you also join my community when I make it public through Massfluence? God is great. God is strong. God is eternal. God made me. He shaped me. And He has directed me to do this. And within that, my guides are sitting here around me. My ancestry is sitting around me. And yes, there's strength in numbers. And I will say this to you in closing. Add your numbers to us. Like, share, and subscribe this. Rewatch it as many times as you need to. Comments, give me questions below. And tell me exactly what you either want to know, think, feel, and believe. And if you have hate, I want you to ask yourself a very simple question. If you've watched this video and you are angered by it, assess what kind of anger that is. And then I want you to do something. Don't just deny yourself. Ask yourself this question. Why are you feeling threatened by people who just want to live their lives? Why does them living their lives threaten you so much? And in closing, I will say this. My next video, I am going to delve definitely more into the complexities of this particular regime, which is the Trump regime. And I will go ahead and I will give you factual sources that you can do some homework on if you so choose. I want to wish you all a good day. Be well, be safe, be caring, be empathic, be accessible. So please be, do, and have empathy and kindness. God bless you. Spirits guide you. And this is Allison from Allison Knows. Take it easy. Bye.